podcast where people reach their goals and develop confidence one mind shift habit at a time. Let's join our host, certified coach Christina.
This episode of Conversations with Coach is sponsored by Christina Callaway Life Coaching, LLC. I am pleased to announce that I will be releasing my first book a little later in 2023. It's entitled The Mindset Playbook, a guide for athletes to help them identify and overcome mental and performance blocks. There will be more information in the show notes where you can support my efforts. If this is your first time joining Conversations with Coach, welcome. I am your host, certified mindset and confidence coach, Christina Callaway. I partner with athletes, parents, and coaches, and together we develop the tools to increase their confidence and achieve their goals both on and off the field of play. When I say the word nonprofit, what comes to mind? Did you know the NFL and the NBA are nonprofits? Have you ever wanted to start a nonprofit but always thought about it and you never did it? One of the biggest myths about nonprofits is nonprofits can't make money. And just a simple definition, a nonprofit organization is a group organized for purposes other than generating profit and in which no part of the organization's income is distributed to its members, directors, or officers. So that kind of dispels that myth a little bit. Well, in case you're wondering what this episode is about all things nonprofit. And I am so excited to have a returning guest who's actually one of my first few guests when I started my podcast back in 2021. It feels so funny to think about that now because, wow, a whole year and some months have gone by since I started, and it feels like I just started yesterday. But the guest that I have coming today is returning, and she is here to share more about her nonprofit, 3WaterColors. And before I bring her out, well, I was going to share a little bit about her, but you know what? I'm going to say that for her to do because she's not really a first-timer. I want you to put some love in the chat and help me welcome our guest, our returning guest back, Sylvia. Hi, Sylvia.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Moving along.
That is so exciting. It's been a while since you've been on, as I mentioned, and I'm excited to have you to come back. And I've been watching you and 3WaterColors on social media, and you all are growing and doing big things since the last time you were on Conversations with Coach, and I'm excited for you to share that. But before we go that far, I purposely did not read your bio because I'm going to allow you to tell a little bit about yourself and share your story.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for having me back. So a lot exactly has been going on, as you mentioned. And so let's start from the beginning. So let's get back into why it is I started 3WaterColors, and it was based off of my own personal history of different types of abuse. So what is abuse? Everybody always asks. So we have 5 different types of abuse. I suffered them all as a child. Yeah, from as far back as I can remember, from the age of 7 to up to about 22, I want to say, maybe 24.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just one of those stories that it just continues to unravel itself the more you dive into it. And so that's what brought me to 3WaterColors is, me trying to figure out what my purpose in life was. And after doing tons of soul searching and counseling and therapy, which I'm still in, that's what brought me to where I'm at now. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned the 5 types of abuse, and just to make sure that our viewing audience is aware, because it's so important that we shine the light on abuse. It's unfortunate that we have to, but I feel like the more the light is shined on it, it makes it more difficult for the abuser to abuse, because everyone can recognize what abuse is and they are going to be empowered to speak up. And when the person who has been abused does speak up, others will feel more comfortable in addressing how that they might be able to help. So if you wouldn't mind, what are the 5 types of abuse?
So the 5 types of abuse are pretty tricky. It's not straightforward, um, just for the simple fact that lots of it is hard to prove. So, and then a lot of them tie into one another. So we can start off with neglect. Neglect is one of the top abuse that is very, very hard to prove, and which is ridiculous. But I was neglected as well, so my personal needs were not met, and so it gets kind of tricky when you start talking about neglect, because it's like, well, she didn't have shampoo. That's not neglect. Maybe the mom just couldn't afford it. And so that's where neglect kind of gets kind of tricky when you try and diagnose the abuse through neglect. And then the next one would be obviously trauma, right? What type of trauma comes from all of these different types of abuse. So trauma is another one, right? It's like, well, they're talking about that they have trauma, but who's to say that all this abuse that they've incurred or the neglect that they've suffered is even, related to the trauma. We also have sexual abuse. Obviously, that is straightforward. It's, kids that are used for purposes that adults just shouldn't be using. Obviously, we all know that one. And that one itself is also very hard to prove. Because
really?
Yeah. Because a lot of times they try and say that, the kids saw it on TV. It's something that they've learned or something they heard. And so now the child is just acting out that way because of what they saw, they heard. So not necessarily that it happened to them, but, that's also hard to prove. And then physical abuse, that's straightforward. It's leaving marks, which, although I just learned that in Texas, you're able to punish your child to the point of leaving bruises, but it's got to be reasonable. So to me is like, what is reasonable? Wait a minute. It's like you're on your deathbed, you got broken bones. Like, what is it? But yes, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I am part of child sex trafficking as well now.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so, that's sexual abuse. And then obviously it's mental abuse. And, we all know that comes with everything else involved.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. To your point of them all, that I could see how they all could end up connecting like Legos. If a person, a child, is experiencing the physical abuse, that is going to affect them mentally.
Right.
Because to your point, it's going to feel like, is it my fault? What is it that maybe I'm not being good enough? Maybe if I did these things, that my abuser would like me more and they would stop abusing. So it plays on the mindset of the person that's being abused. The other thing is that if it's sexual in nature, that ties into the physical abuse. And it's very shocking for me to hear you say in Texas that the law is as vague as it is when proving or getting those charges filed against someone. And to your point of the neglect, I think that because it's so many different ways that we can neglect, but I feel like maybe the guidelines and the boundaries and the standards should be reined in. For example, I know, having gone through this type of training, that one of the main things that screams out is for neglect is if a child is not wearing the proper clothing to fit the season. So, for example, it's wintertime in Georgia and in Texas, and it would seem very odd for a child to go to school with summer wear on. Like, that is
Mhm.
neglect. And sometimes I feel like people might be dismissive because they might say, oh, well, maybe it's because they don't have enough money. Maybe that's
Right.
why they are wearing those clothes. Those are the only clothes that they have. I understand that rationalization. However, it's still neglect,
Yeah.
because that child cannot focus. Like, and again, it gets into the mental part of it. They're trying to keep themselves warm. And so that's the only thing they can think about. They can't think about in anything else other than being warm or getting food to eat. I know that I have a gymnastics camp, and it was a summer many years ago. One of the kids came with a lunch. When she opened the lunch, she was like, I can't eat this. We examined it, and yes, did she have food in her lunch? She did, but it was rotten.
Yeah.
And so when, in further investigation of asking her, she says, well, this was the only thing in the refrigerator for me to eat.
Yes.
I vacillated back and forth on, do I report this or not? But after it happened more than one time, I did report
Yes.
it. Whether anything happened out of that report, I don't know, but I just couldn't sleep at night. And so I say all of this so that people, as you were talking about the 5 different ways that people are abused, that people don't always just go to those main screaming ones, that they all are screaming the same amount of attention, help, and let's get it. And I will say, I know that I said this the first time that you on, and it bears repeating. I am so sorry that you experienced that for one day, let alone 17 years. That is a really long time. And I appreciate the fact that you shared that you got into counseling and you got into therapy, and that is an ongoing process. So thank you so very much for you being transparent and just sharing that with someone who may be listening, or maybe they know someone that is going through this, and they're like, wait a minute, let me tune in and see what kind of resources are out there. So definitely, for the listening audience, please hit the share button, so that you can send this to someone who would definitely benefit from it. Now, you mentioned 3WaterColors when you were talking. Let's share with the audience what 3WaterColors is.
So 3WaterColors is our baby. Um, as I mentioned before, I've always struggled with trying to figure out what my purpose in life was after my abuse, after attempting suicide several times. I finally came to that realize. Oh my gosh, it won't come out.
Realization. I got you.
There you go. Thank you. And I was like, what is my purpose of being here? I finally sat back one day and I thought, okay, I'm supposed to be for others what I needed growing up. So I needed people to step up and speak for Sylvia. I needed, Sylvia to be able to feel safe enough to use her voice. And I never got to that point ever as a child because I was always so afraid. Because as soon as you tell your secrets like that, the first person they call is the person that's doing the abusing.
And that makes no sense, but it
Right.
happens, doesn't it?
It does, time and time again. And so that's how I ended up looking into starting a nonprofit, figuring out how I can serve our local youth, right? Or just youth in general. And that's where 3WaterColors was born. It was like, oh my God, I'm definitely going to start this nonprofit so we can give back to our community, to these kids that are being abused, neglected, or underprivileged. And that's just what 3WaterColors stands for, is serving those kids that need that listening ear, that
Yeah.
need those extra services, that extra hug, that extra care, that extra
Yeah.
push, that extra I'm here for you. You
Yeah.
know, if you fall, I'm going to be right here for you when you get back up. And so, yeah, that's how
I
Three
like what you
Watercolors started.
said, that you came about starting this nonprofit after contemplating, what is my life's purpose? Like, I've attempted suicide. I've thought about attempting suicide several times. And for the reasons only God knows, I'm still here after having
Right.
endured everything that I've endured. So, what is that purpose for? And then it came to you. I'm supposed to be for kids what I didn't get. And
Right.
I'm going to be that conduit. I'm going to be there for them. So, how did you come up with 3WaterColors? What does that mean? What does that represent?
So the name represents the strength of our children. We have 3 kids. They're adults now. They're not even babies. But so it's ocean, rain, and river. So it's 3, and then their names are water. So it's 3 water. And then the colors is just, they each have their own personality. It's hilarious with these 3 kids. It's just, they're so funny. And the reason why I decided to incorporate them is that at a very young age, we were giving back to the Salvation Army. All of my
Right.
items that I ever owned growing up came from the Salvation Army. Like Sylvia
Mm-hmm.
didn't own anything brand new ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I ever knew was hand-me-downs, which are fine. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, you get to that age where you just don't feel like you're enough, right? Because you keep wearing other people's clothes or things that don't fit you. And
Yeah.
so we ended up teaching our kids that every year they had to go pull out money from their piggy bank. And although they were upset, they were like, why? Like, I don't even know these people. We would make them, go buy 10 beanies, 10 gloves, 10 toothbrushes, 10 of something, 10
Mm-hmm.
pairs of socks, and then we would put them in baggies, and then we would go down to the Salvation Army and drop them off for whoever needed them. And for many, many years, and now they're older, obviously, and they think about it and they're like, dang, we've been doing this for a very long time.
They're still doing it?
We still do it.
Ah,
Yes. Yeah.
I
So it
love
started with
it.
them. Yeah. So we decided to go ahead and name our nonprofit, you know, uh, on behalf of our babies, just because they gave so much of themselves that they didn't even have a clue. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I love
Yeah.
I love their names, first of all. That is just
Oh,
so
thanks.
cool. And I love how you just came up with incorporating them in, because, to your point, as you were growing beyond your abuse, they were growing beyond it with you.
Right.
And so they understood exactly the steps that you were taking, where you were at, and how it was affecting you. And in some small way, this was their way to, even though they didn't realize it back then because they were so young, but it was their way of being able to give back into your purpose of being able to serve other people. So I think that's great. So now that they are adults and they have this realization, they stop and they think about it and they're like, man, we've been doing this for a really long time.
Mhm.
How was the conversation when you shared with them your vision, your dream of what it was, this nonprofit, and why you were wanting to do it? What was, and them being so young, what was their response?
Now it's like, wow, I can't believe mom did it. Like, mom is helping so many kids. But back in the day, of course, they were like, why do I gotta go spend my laundry money
Mm-hmm.
that I just, that I just
Yeah.
made? And, why do I gotta spend my money when you told me to save it so I can buy myself that one toy? And I'm just
Right.
like, you're giving back, and they didn't get it. But now it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, dang, like mom is really doing it. Like mom is helping so many. And so our son was helping us for a while. Our daughter was helping us for a while. Of course, my husband still helps.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of volunteers, but they're just over the moon with it. They're so excited. They just can't believe that mom did it, which makes me so happy because I now have a different office as well. I just don't have this office. I have an office in a high school serving kids, and I mentor them there. So yeah.
And that was going to be my next question for you, is the growth that 3WaterColors has experienced since its inception. And you mentioned that you partner now, that you actually have an office now at a high school. At your locations outside of your home base office, what is it that is different for that location than it would be for your other location?
Oh, it's so different. So this location where I'm at now, it's it's open to the public. Anybody who may have needs or concerns or services that they need rendering, they come here. Our volunteers come to this office. Donations come into this office. And at the school, it's a one-on-one mentoring basis. Yeah, so the kids get to come in and sit down, and we have volunteers that stock the refrigerator and the snacks. And they come in, they grab their snacks, they grab their drink, they sit down, and it's like, how's your day going? And it's just like, Miss Sylvia, I need a hug. And they break down crying. They know it's a safe place. I tell them, I'm very transparent there. I tell them everything Miss Sylvia went through. They can share as much as they want to share. They just know that everything that comes out of their mouth has to be the truth. And I just let them know that we just don't want to chase this lie and then we don't get nowhere, right? Because we're just kind of chasing a lie. So I love it that every morning when I show up, and my husband can vouch on this, there's literally kids waiting for me, high school kids at the door waiting for me to show up. And they're like,
just gave me chills.
Yeah, it's like, Miss Sylvia, can I have a sandwich? Miss Sylvia, can I get a Gatorade? Miss Sylvia, I didn't sleep today. Can I talk to you? And it's just like they're waiting. And then even during sessions that I have with the students, it's you hear, because someone else wants to come in there, and I'm like, give me a second, like it's not your turn right now, like I'm dealing with a whole nother thing right now. But so it's just super exciting that I get that one-on-one. And I mean, it's just amazing. It's simply amazing. I just can't, it's just amazing. That's all I can say.
It sounds amazing. So that is new since the last time that you were here, because you weren't in the school at that time. How many schools have you partnered with?
So right now, honestly, I can only handle one, and it's only because I have 30 kids right now.
Oh, that's a lot. How are the kids identified to be sent to you?
Okay, so there's different ways. They go to their guidance. They go to their counselor. Then the counselor, depending on what the issue is, kind of assesses it, and then they kind of escalate it to the guidance counselor. And then the guidance counselor says, okay, this child does not belong with 3WaterColors because they have not been abused, neglected, or underprivileged. So in order for you to be part of 3WaterColors, you have to fall into those 3 criteria. But I had mentioned to them that I'm willing to take on more kids if they just need an extra hug. They just need an extra 30 minutes to cry. I'm willing to be that support for them. Services cannot be rendered to them, but me being there, I can sit there and listen. It's not going to take away from anybody else, or from the services that I'm able to give to anybody else if I just sit there and give them 30 minutes. So so I've only partnered up with one school, and then like I said, I do sex trafficking now for children. And
is that with you doing that with an agency or with the police department, or both?
So it's with the police department. I have partnered up with Fort Worth PD, and that's where they were like, so the phone calls that I make is to CPS, social workers, and police departments.
Gotcha.
after I get the full story of what's going on with the kids.
What's going on? Gotcha.
And then I get detectives giving me calls and they're like, listen, like you need to bring this kid in. And that's how I ended up linking in with sex trafficking, because right now I am currently serving a couple of students that are in the mix of that, and had no clue about it. So
wait. You said that you are connected with a couple of students who are mixed in. So they are currently being sex trafficked?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So now just for us to pause just for a minute, because I was under the assumption that once it is identified that that's what they are a part of, they are immediately removed from that. That's not how it works?
Yep.
Please educate, please.
Yeah, so everything's a process. And this is where I get kind of frustrated myself as well.
I'm frustrated listening to that.
Right. So it's a whole beast all in itself. It's, you're fighting up against parents that just don't want the world to know what their kids are doing or what's happened to them. So you're fighting that. Then you're fighting social workers that are fighting with the parents because the parents aren't being cooperative. And then you get the police involved. And then the police is like a whole nother beast, because it's like, they're not answering my calls. They're not, we've been to their house. They're not opening the door. And it's just, it's a whole thing.
So everybody's fighting one another instead of collectively coming together to pull these kids out of harm's way and danger and all of the abuse that is taking part. What would be something that, from your position, number one, having this nonprofit, but from the position of, I was sexually abused, I know what they're going through, and what is it that you are hoping that you bring to all of this ball of confusion to help bring more order, to help more children?
I bring support. I have been to a couple of the forensic interviews that these kids are going through. And I will sit there and I will listen. Let me take that back. So I will sit there and wait 12 hours if I have to, until this kid is done telling their whole story.
What?
Yes. And they just want to, I'm just there to reassure that they stay on track. Everything they told me matches what they're now telling this other person that they have no clue who they are. And I'm like reassuring them, it's okay. They're going to help you. You have to go in there. You have to be honest. Like Miss Sylvia says, you have to be honest. And, we're going to get you the help. It's got to start somewhere. And so, that's just what I go and I lend support.
Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate you so much and everything that you're doing. That cannot be easy to sit there. Like when you just said 6 and then you kept going on, you said 12 hours. I'm thinking a 12-hour interview for them to just get it all out. That just has to be so like you're emotionally and mentally, you are tapped out by the time that is over. And so you shared with us, you're in the school, you also have your public place where people can come and be serviced. And you're saying, you mentioned, I'm in one school right now because it's just me. I know you have a mentoring program. Tell us about the mentoring program and what plans you might be having on training others so that you can expand your services.
So our mentoring program that we have right now at this high school. So we have 2 mentoring programs right now. During the summer, we serve the underserved children of different types of apartment complexes where they're low income. So these are kids that live off the bare minimum. So I partnered up with Starbucks and Chipotle, and what they do is, they donate food for us, and then we in return go to these apartment complexes and we tell the kids, hey, listen, we're going to be here every Friday between this time and this time, and we're going to feed. And that's one of our mentoring programs that we do, is so they wait for us to show up every Friday.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, depending on what apartment complex we're going to, is they're sitting around waiting. Okay, they're coming on Monday. We're going to get to eat Monday. We're going to get to eat Thursday. We're going to get to eat Friday, just depending on what apartment complex we're going to. So that's one of our mentoring programs.
And that was only during this, is that only during the summer, the feeding one? Okay.
Mhm.
And that's because of the break from them being able to have access to food when school's going on.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then our other mentoring program is during school hours, which is the one that I do at school. So it's a one-on-one. We do provide basic needs, which looks like shampoo, conditioner, clean underwear, socks, shoes, backpacks, any school supplies
Things that
they
most
need.
people take for granted.
Right. Yeah. Toothpaste, toothbrush, hairbrushes, pillows, blankets, you name it, we provide it.
Awesome.
And just the one-on-one, it's a lot of crying, a lot of laughter, a lot of making fun of things. So it's just that one-on-one reassuring. Let me tell you, I need a lockbox on my door at school because I am losing track of how many notes get thrown under my door of the kids that are like, Miss Sylvia, can you come pull me? Because there's something I need to tell you. I didn't tell you yesterday. I didn't tell you last week, but I just thought of it and I don't want to forget about it. So I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's amazing. So that's what we do at the high school.
Oh my goodness. I love to hear this, and just the need for this is so, to your point, you're one person, you're one organization, and the individual attention that your students and your clients that you serve are able to get from you, it's priceless. You can't put a price tag on that, because for many of these, for the very first time, they're being believed and they're being listened to. And I hear you keep saying just the one-on-one. Let me tell you, it's not just one-on-one. You providing that one-on-one connection and that avenue for those students to feel safe to come and get all of that off of them so that they can sit in class to try to stay focused on their schoolwork, because we all know that if you're in an abusive situation, your focus is not going to be on school. Your focus is 100% on survival.
That's right.
And having you as a resource inside of that school is invaluable. And I just see 3WaterColors even growing more. Someone that's watching may question, well, I don't live in Fort Worth. Can I have access to her services?
Actually, they can, just depending on how far out they are. I try and keep our few items that people donate to us, because now you're looking at shipping costs, and so it just depends on how it is. These children could reach out to us, but if they were to reach out to us, myself personally would investigate or find out where it is I can find services for these children, because we serve kids that are between the ages of 5 to 18. Everybody always says, why that age? It's a lot of times these kids don't understand, just like I didn't understand growing up, that showing up to school meant showing up to school, right? It doesn't mean you show up in shorts and flip-flops and you're just there to kind of take up space. It's showing up. And so that's how I look at it when I say that we serve kids between the ages of 5 to 18, is we're teaching these kids to show up. Right?
Yeah.
So did you brush your hair today? Did you brush your teeth? You know, we need another shirt. Like, you've had that one on and it smells really bad, and Miss Sylvia's going to get you another one. You know, you didn't change your socks today. Let's change your socks, because we got to be healthy. We got to be part of everybody else. We're not going to exclude ourselves because we don't live up to everybody else's standards. Now we're going to be thrown into the mix, and we're going to be a part of our classroom. right? We don't want them to ever feel like, okay, I'm not dressed the part, so I'm different than them. No, we're not. It's okay. You come to Miss Sylvia, we're going to brush your hair, we're going to brush our teeth, we're going to change your clothes, and you're going to be presentable, and you're going to show up and be part of your class. So it starts there. Yeah.
It really does. And for the very first time for many of them, it is someone letting them know you do matter. The way you look, the way you dress, our body odor. A lot of times people don't understand when a child is being abused, neglected, the life skills that most of us take for granted that we are taught, they're not being taught that in their mind because all they've ever seen is abuse and neglect. Well, everyone else must be doing this because this is how I live. It's not until they are shown differently and told differently that they understand their circumstances are not normal and it's not something that they should be going through. So I don't want people to just be very dismissive of what it is you're providing. Yes, you're providing those tangible things that they need, the necessities that they need. Absolutely. The food, the clothing, you're providing all of that. But you are also, in addition to that, because all of that would even be enough, but more than enough, you're taking it next level and you are educating them and sharing with them their value that they matter in this setting that they're in the school setting. When they're not in the school setting, you being able to be fed during the summer, like that is important to us and it should be important to you. And you're just helping these children to understand that in spite of their most unfortunate circumstance, they're still a human being and someone still cares about them. Because to your point, they're almost forgotten when all of that's going on. No one is there reaching out. No one is there reaching out regularly to let them know that they do matter. And this is the way that they do matter. How can we help to support 3WaterColors? I know it's after the holidays and many people think about nonprofits and they make their big donations at the end of the year because they're wanting to take advantage of the tax credit. We're at the beginning of the year, and how is it that people can not wait until the end of the year for nonprofits? And talk about what impact that does have when people wait to donate at the very end of the year.
Yeah, so I mean, supporting a local nonprofit or just any nonprofit at any given time is always a plus, right? It's and just like you just said, everybody does wait till Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's like, why? Like the need is year round, exactly. So like I said, in the summer we're feeding, we're also providing shampoo, conditioner, all the necessities. It doesn't stop. The holidays don't stop these kids from lacking certain items. So as far as supporting, it's year round. Like sign up. We have 3WaterColors right now has a ripple effect donation portal on our website, and you're able to sign up, and you can log in and say, hey, I want to donate $25 a month, and it automatically pulls from whatever it is you set up. And without you'll get an email that says, hey, thank you for your $25 or thank you for your $50 this month. Can't wait till next month, So signing up and continuing small little donations goes a big, long way.
Talk about that for just a moment. Sometimes people will think, oh, well, they have such a great need and I'm just one small person. I don't have all this money that I can donate. Talk about, say, a $25 consistent donation. What impact will that allow you to have?
Oh my gosh. So $25 in 1 year is what, $300? 30 something? No,
it's close to $300 a year.
Yeah, I think
it's 25 a month.
Yeah, I think it's 3 something. Okay. Yeah, it's whatever the math is. But Yeah, so that makes a huge impact. So we have these little cards here that kind of break
Yep.
it down for people.
Mhm.
And what we can do with $300 is basically purchase all the hygiene products this child needs, all the school
Mm.
supplies they need, and also get them some bedding, some blankets,
Oh.
and consistent food on a monthly basis. So
Yeah.
it goes a long way. A lot
A
of people
long
think,
way.
maybe not, but it's, if we just sit back and we say, let me see, I only have $20 to give a month, then $20 it is. Because guess what? If you can buy John or Kim or Susan some underwear for that month with those $20, it's
Yep.
going to go a long way. So
It's going to
I
go a
mean,
long way. You
yeah.
mentioned there are a couple of companies that you have partnered with to help with the feeding. How does it work? Let's say someone's watching and they have a company and they're like, you know what? I want to reach out to her because I have access to the toiletries and I am willing to donate X amount of toiletries. Or another person might be watching and saying, you know what? I have access through my organization, or my company. We have access and we want to be able to support them with their undergarments or blankets with their backpacks and that sort of thing. How might these organizations and individuals contact you?
So they can also get onto our website and send me an email. They can send out an email that says, hey, listen, I'm trying to figure out how to partner with you. We are still considered a baby nonprofit. We're under the 5-year mark, so it's still baby. We're not like some of your big nonprofits that have warehouses and have all these facilities where they're able to house all of these products.
Yeah.
I wish I can show you. This is going to be weird, guys, but here, let me see if you can see this.
Yeah, we see it. Oh, wow.
So I mean, that's just the tip of it. I'll drop my computer if I keep flipping it like that. But just so you know, I've got piles on this whole wall of things. And it's just, those are donations. And so we're a baby nonprofit. We don't have like the huge storage facilities, like I said, to house everything. So we usually try and encourage people to either send in gift cards, because you can put a gift card in a drawer. And as soon as a kid needs something, I can run over to the store and get it for them like that. Or money. Money is never a bad thing. Again, it just gives me access quicker to service those children when they're in need. So as far as products go, I didn't mean to say that. As far as products go, yeah, it gets kind of tricky because you do have those people that want to give big, but if they say, hey, Sylvia, listen, like I've got a garage full of stuff, you can come choose from it whenever you need it, then so be it. I will be there. So, but yeah, it's just
That is
the
so good.
tangible things makes it kind of
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to put that out there because I can just hear someone saying, I know someone who would connect, or my nonprofit wants to connect with her nonprofit so that we can even serve more, and just creating that space to be able to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the call to action now where I share your social media. I've already put your website up there. Again, all of this information is going to live in the show notes, and you can follow. I encourage you to follow and share 3WaterColors on all of the social media that they're on: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. They are at 3WaterColors, and you can reach and email Sylvia by visiting the 3WaterColors website. Sylvia, I appreciate you so much. We could go on and on. I have so many more questions that I want to ask you, but I want to be mindful of the time as well. But the most important thing that I want people to take away from this is, number one, you are a survivor in a big, big way. And you are turning your unfortunate circumstances that you had nothing to do with, these things were done to you, and you have made the best pitcher of lemonade that anyone can absolutely drink off of. And you
Thank
are
you.
actually pouring that lemonade into others who find themselves where you once were. And I can't think of any other way of sticking it to the abuser than to say, you know what you meant for bad and what you meant for my demise, I'm using as a stepping stone to help others and to shed the light on evil people like you. So I appreciate you so very much. And I am encouraging everyone, this is the beginning of the year. Don't wait until Thanksgiving and Christmas only to do your donating. Make it a quarterly thing. There are nonprofits that are listed, and 3WaterColors is the same on there's a state registry that you may not be aware of that nonprofits get themselves on. And outside of the tax break that one gets from donating to a nonprofit, there is also that dopamine of I've just done something really, really good for another person. So I'm encouraging all of my viewers, since we are into the New Year's resolution time right now, I'm encouraging all of my viewers to make it one of your New Year's resolutions that you're going to add 3WaterColors as your nonprofit for the 2023 year, and that you're going to spread that with those in your circle of influence and have them to come and join you, so that by the time I have her own in 12 months, she'll say, oh, well, we've grown and now we're doing this, and this.
Yeah,
right. And we'll all know that the Conversations with Coach Tribe was a part of making that happen. But thank you again. And before I let you out of here, you know what I do. Final thoughts. When it comes to 3WaterColors, what is the one thing, the one mindset shift that you want to leave with the audience?
All of us can do a little something for someone, as small as $20, as small as a smile, as small as a hug, as small as, it takes more effort to be ugly to somebody than it does to just smile at someone and give them a compliment. So just be kind, and be thoughtful. So.
Well said. Well said. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And there you have it. We've just had another great episode of Conversations with Coach. I'm telling you, 2023 is just going to get better and better from here. My guests are coming in, packing the punch. It does my heart really good to be able to have Sylvia to come in and talk about 3WaterColors. It obviously is a passion of hers, and it shows through her conversation and all of the work that she's doing. And I just encourage you all to visit her on her social media, reach out to her, and consider making 3WaterColors a part of your charities that you donate to. Thank you again for following me. I've made it now a year and some months with Conversations with Coach, and I could not have done it without you. There are some things in store that we have for Conversations with Coach. I'll share more about that in future episodes. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, I am writing my book, and it's going to hit the shelves here not too soon, not too much later from here. So I'm plugging away with the writing, and just stay tuned to how you're going to be able to help support me with my pre-launch. But in the meantime, I can use your support even now. So that information will be in the show notes as well. You're following me already on my social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Christina Mindset Coach. Thank you so much. I want you to set yourself a goal to share it with at least one person so that I can continue to grow on my social media. Also, as I mentioned, if you are a parent, an athlete, a coach, or an organization, and confidence or performance anxiety and mental blocks is something that is a struggle, I want you to visit me on my website and schedule your free clarity call so that we can discuss and I can share with you ways that I can help you and your athlete and your employees to overcome. Until the next time, again, I don't know how long we keep saying Happy New Year. I think we have to go through the whole month of January. But anyway, Happy New Year. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you same time, same station next week.
Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Coach. Please be sure to follow Coach Christina on all of her social media platforms. And remember, Life is only as good as your mindset.